Hello everyone. Welcome to the Mixed Reality Toolkit tutorial number 3. And in this segment, we are going to talk about and learn about interactions. So in the previous ones, we saw how to set up our Mixed Reality Toolkit, and then we learned and now explored how the profiles or what are the profiles are, all those things. Now let's get started with our actual application development. So there are different kind of interactions that you can perform within your application. Like you can interact through your controller operations, you can interact through speech, and you can also interact with your articulator hand gestures. But the basic form of interaction that we are trying to first learn about is focus and all about pointers, right? Because in the natural form of interaction, what happens is like when you are interacting with an object in a scene, even in the real world, you're going to look at it generally. So the focus is basically the primary mode of interaction that you can do in a mixed reality application. So we need to know where the user is focusing at and what cue an object has to give when it is focused upon or when it loses its focus and things like that. And also the pointers are the ones which facilitate this focus, which where every pointer at a point is going to focus. It could be pointing on a particular game object, or it could be pointing into the void or into a real world object. So the pointers are the ones which will raise an event when it is losing the current focus, or it is gaining a focus onto a new game object within the scene. So this whole lesson is going to be on how to tackle those events, like when an object enters a focus, or when a pointer enters a game object and leaves a game object, and when a focus is changed from one object to another. So last time we said we are going to create our own profiles going forward, and that's what we're going to first do. Start with our own profile. And if you have noticed, I have upgraded. In the last week there was a new update to the Mixed Reality Toolkit for 2.1 version of the toolkit, and I have upgraded my this particular project to the 2.1. Now, as for this learning tutorial and demo purposes, there is not any differences that you will notice from what you learned in the previous two lessons. Everything is going to remain the same, so don't worry about it. And we will be learning on this one going forward, so I can explain the new features and changes added to the 2.1 going onwards. Right. So if you see, we currently have a default HoloLens 2 configuration profile. So what I'm going to do is copy and customize this one, right? So when it copies and customizes, it's going to ask me put it in a target folder called custom profiles. So what it's going to do is it is going to create a folder inside the Mixed Reality Toolkit called the custom profiles and create a new profile name by this. So what I'm going to do is for simplicity, I'm going to simply rename it to MR toolkit configuration profile, and now you can see all these fields. Most of them will be editable, and we have automatically switched you can see that the custom profiles have been created in a different folder, actually not inside Mixed Reality Toolkit like I said before. So it creates a new folder called Mixed Reality Toolkit.generated and custom profiles in it, and here it is. Now, and another thing that you can notice is it automatically switched to the new one that we just cloned. So now you can see we can actually edit some of these pieces, and what we are going to do is we are going to keep many of them the same way, but and we will be changing on course of our lectures. We will be changing and creating new ones going forward. So this is the start. And to start with, we are going to the input profile, and we are going to create a new input profile for ourselves here. So I'm going to create another one. Again, just renaming it to MR, input system profile, clone it. So that's there. Now you can see that we see the pointers and the pointer profile. So this is something that we are going to create new as part of this particular lecture. because we have to see, and we are not going to edit any of them, but we have to see the internal nature of them so we can explore those prefabs and certain things. So I'm going to make it again MR. All right. Now, yep, you can see that. Okay, let me just expand it. Okay, now you can see that we have a pointer profile inside our custom pre input profile, and you can see those pointer settings. And this is the prefab for the cursor. When I play this, so you can see there is a circular button. Yeah, if you come closer, there you go. So that's basically the prefab being used here for the gaze cursor. And then we have the pointer settings and the pointing extent. So what happens is, like, when I press the space button, you can see that there is this tracer coming in with the hand, and there is a pointer attached to the hand, and that's basically that's determined by this pointer settings. And I can, but the default is basically 10 meters. That's what it shows here, the pointer extent. But I can extend it if I want, which we will do on the course of this particular video, right? So I'm gonna stop it, and let me explain what these are. So what it does is, like, it will this particular pointer options will specify the pointer prefabs which are being used, and along with the controller type that this particular pointer is associated with, and what type of handedness, is it left or right, so what hand is associated with the particular controller. That's what it does. So in the runtime, these prefabs will be initiated and attached to the controller when that particular controller is detected by the Mixed Reality Toolkit system. Right? I explained pretty much this in the previous lecture. So, but in this particular case, what we are going to look into is the default controller pointer, which is active for HoloLens 2. Right, and that's the one you just saw, but the default one is what you see all the time, the pointer line. And then we have the one that we have of interest is poke pointer, and that is for near interaction touches. So when I go, uh, you know, sorry, yeah, I need to play. Yeah, so when I go very close to the object, this particular what you see, this particular interacting pointer will change to something called this poke interaction. It's a different set of pointer, and when I try to grab it like this, it will be the sphere pointer or the grab pointer that you see below here. This one, which is associated with the articulator hand, will be triggered too. So those are the two pointers which will trigger the pointer actions, yeah, or events, like a click or a pointer up or point down, like that. So it will translate that index finger operation to pointer operations, basically. So they are a type of pointers which is used to interact with the game objects that support near interaction touchables. So when I say support, it means those game objects will have a script called either a near interaction touchable or near interaction grabbable attached to it, which declares them as you can interact with me on a closer proximity. When I can you can when the user can reach out to that particular object at a closer distance through their hand, they will be able to, the pointers will switch to a near pointer, either a poke pointer or a grabbable pointer for manipulation purposes. So the pointer, what happens is, like, at that point, it will keep scanning at a particular radius or volume to detect any game objects which has those scripts attached to it, and based on that, its behavior will change to either as a poke pointer or as a grab pointer. For now, here we are going to deal with the default controller pointer for HoloLens 2. So there is a script component called focus provider, which I showed you in previous lecture, attached to the mixed reality toolkit. And that's the actual workhorse which determines which pointer is focusing on which particular object in a scene at a particular point. What it does is it will go through all the active controllers and the pointers attached to those controllers and iterate through them and figure out, okay, which game object each of them are focusing at, and it updates it frequently. It is also possible to do it in your code where you get all the input sources and iterate through them and manually finding all the pointers which are active in the scene. The focus provider also has a primary pointer changed event so that the user or you will be notified when the primary pointer which is assigned by the focus provider changes. So it will help you identify what is the current interaction mode for the user, like it could be a gaze or a hand ray or another input source. I'm going to play the scene here. Now I can have a one pointer. So if you look at it, this is one of the pointers. At the same time, I can have another pointer, which is my hand here, and it could point to a different object or to the same object. So it's totally possible that we can have multiple pointers pointed at the same object, or one different pointers pointing at different objects in the same scene at the same time. So we need to handle all those scenarios and tell them what's going on, give the user a proper cue, right? Where they are focusing at, what pointer is focusing where, and what happens when they move out of focus or they move focus to a new thing, and things like that. What happens when I click on a object, like a tap operation like this. So let it start up. Okay, so you can see, look at the hand movement. You can see that, yeah, that's basically a click operation, right? It is converted to a click operation for selecting an object or selecting a menu or any UI interaction or any kind of interaction. So those are the basic operations which we start with. So we are going to see how we are going to deal with that. Now we are going to create two objects here. Right now we have a cube, okay? In the scene we have a cube, and I'm going to create one more, another cube, three object, and there you go. So I'm going to rename cube 1 and cube 2. Right. So now what I'm going to do is we are going to keep them in two separate locations. And let's hit play. So if you look at it, you can see one of them there and another one here, right? So let's see how we are going to target, how we are going to tackle the focus operation. Now for focus operation, there are three basic events that happens: a focus enter, on focus exit, and on focus changed. A focus changed is implemented by an interface called iMixedRealityChangedFocus handler, and another one is iMixedReality focus handler. So one is focus changed handler, and the other one is focus handler. We will look into that soon. So what I'm going to do right now is create a new folder right here called, no, scripts. All right, and I am going to add a new script called cube controller. Okay, so let's add this guy to our CubeOne, that is the red one, right? And what we are going to do is we are going to modify the code here and add the scripts to tackle those events. So while this is loading, make sure that Visual Studio is you can have Visual Studio Unity, I mean Community Edition, or the code version of the Visual Studio. Just make sure that in your edit preferences here you have your external tool mapped to Visual Studio, all right, whichever version you have. So that will help you in the debugging, and especially when you can use attach to Unity and debug it like with the breakpoints and all those things. So that will really help you with that with IntelliSense and everything. Uh, Now, what I'm going to do is, so for focus, the first interface that supports focus events are called iMixed Reality Focus Handler, and that is coming from MixedRealityToolkit input. Right now, I'm going to implement it. So we don't need this one, at least yet, not the update, definitely not. So I'm going to remove that, and then we are going to implement those events, right? All right, now let's start simple by implementing just this on focus enter and the on focus exit. So what we're going to do is simply, to observe the events, we are going to do a debug dot log. That's all we are going to do. Enter focus on cube, and do this same thing here. Exiting. Exit focus on cube. All right, that's it. And now what we're going to do, we will implement the start and everything once we, implement a few other interfaces like the focus change handler and everything. Uh, so now let's try and see how this works. Okay, so I'm going to, this is our CubeOne, the red one, and where this cube controller is already added. And in Cube 2, nothing is there, right? So what I'm going to do is, let's run this and see how it performs. Okay, now in console everything is clear, all good, and now we are going to see, okay, there is a red one and there is a white one. So I'm pointing mine at white first, nothing is there, and now I'm going to enter the red one. There you can see the focus entered, right? And now when I move out, yeah, you can see exiting on focus. So that's basically, again, every time you entering a focus on a particular object, you can see that logs getting appeared every single time. So that's basically the what we're going to do with on focus enter and on focus exit. Now the next interface. Now there is this difference between pointer based, as I mentioned about before, the pointer based events as well as the normal other kind of events like a speech in events or gesture events, and also the control based ones. There's a difference, and that's what I'm going to highlight. So next we are going to implement mixed reality focus reality focus change handler. This is what we are going to implement. Now this is the focus handler and this is the change handler. All right, now let's implement that too. All right, there you go. So on before focus change and on focus changed, right? So again, debug.log, we're simply going to change it to focus about to change, right? And here focus changed. And two, I'm going to do something. We need to know where it changed, right? So what we're going to do is we are going to get the data from event data dot new focus object. It's a game object dot tag So let's see what is our tag here. This is our CubeOne that has a CubeOne and the tag is untagged. So we are going to create a new tag. Two tags actually. Focus 1 and one more tag is going to be focus 2. Right? We are going to assign this one to focus 1 and this is going to be in focus 2. Right? Cube 2 will be focus 2. So we are going to take that tag for now and put it. The change about change from same thing. In this case, it will be, oh sorry, it would be old focused object, right? So let's try it again. All right, so let's go and try this out right now. All right, I'm going to attach to Unity just in case if you hit any debug errors or anything like that. So this should actually show when there is already a focused object and we move out of that object. So it will show the tag of that particular object. And when there is a we have changed the focus from that particular to a new object, right? It will show the tag of that object. So in this case, let's say I'm going to play this one. Right now there are no focused objects, so that means when I focus on this red one, this old object is going to be null, right? And new object is going to be this red one. So you will see that it is basically focus about to change from empty because there is nothing there and change to a new one, right? So in this case, you can see, yeah, from nothing here and then focus change to focus 1. And when I move out, it will be the other way because when I move out, it is going to change from the old object will be red and to nothing, right? So here to nothing and changed from focus 1. That's how it is. So if there was actually an object behind it, all right, in that case it would actually show off. So that's why I'm gonna keep this guy here right now and let's do this. All right, so I'm gonna keep it right below behind so I can see. Okay, we can do it like this. All right, and now there you go. So let's try this one. So I'm going to play this and it already changed from nothing to focus 1, right? That's the beginning. So now the red is a new object and now when I'm changing it, now you see you can see that the focus about change from focus 1 and change to focus 2, because this guy is being pointed. He is a focus object, a new focus object. That's why it is pointed to that one, right? uh, so that's how it basically happens. Now what happens if I had this script in both 1 and in 2? So let's see, what do we do that, how do we do that? And in that case it will have two events triggered. So let's start with the normal one. That time it is still going to be nothing. If you see this, okay, change from nothing and then entering to focus 1. But when you change it to focus 2, you see more events, right? Focus about to change from focus 1, right? Entered focus, a focus change to focus 2 and focus change to focus 2. It is being done twice, right? The reason is here both the scripts are the script is attached to both the objects, so both of them will receive the on focus changed, right? The on focus changed will be raised on both the objects where the focus is changed, moved out of, and one which lost it and the one which gained it. So that's why you can see this even twice, right? Now so that's basically about focus events. Now what happens, so what is difference here? So in this case you are getting a focus change and here it's a focus enter and focus exit, right? So what is the difference? Now the difference is in focus changed, as I mentioned, the objects which lost the focus of a pointer and gained the focus of a pointer will receive the events if they both have the scripts. In the case of a focus enter and exit is mostly concentrated on a single pointer and single object in this case. So what happens is like, let's keep this aside, we don't need this anymore, we just need the red one. So it will look like this, okay? And I'm going to do is clear everything, and I'm going to take, okay, it could be there, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to take it out, and you have CubeOne, and I'm going to play this, right? So now you can see that, okay, focus changed to focus one, but entered focus on cube. Yes, we did. Now when we move out, we exit focus on cube. That's basically these events, right? Focus enter and focus exit. But now this is one pointer. Now this is one pointer and there is another pointer. So what happens when I'm moving enter here? So you can see that in here focus entered and exited, right? So I'm going to clear it now. And to avoid the confusion, I'm going to comment out this focus changed for now, so it will be more obvious to you guys. Now let's try again. Okay, so you can see focus entered focus, exit focus, simple as that. Now I'm going to clear it. I'm going to start my hand pointer. So there is this hand pointer and I entered, exit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another pointer, my both hands. So now I have another hand here, right? And I'm going to use that to enter here, right? And I want to keep it that way. Now I'm going to use my other pointer here. So if you see it, entered focus is already triggered. It won't trigger again because the enter and exit is per object for all the pointers focused on it combined. That means it will be triggered only when the first pointer enters it and the last pointer leaves it. So if I remove myself, or let's say I am removing this one because I entered this guy, right? So I'm going to remove this. It will still not trigger. Now if I remove my second pointer, now all the pointers has left the object. That's why it is now exit focus is triggered here. You can see it in the console. Now I'm going to enter my both, no, my let's say left one, or last time I entered the left one. So I'm going to enter my right one first. You can see it entered. And then I enter my second one, nothing happens. Now I leave my left one first, nothing happens. Now if I write one first, because the left is already there, still nothing happens. I leave my left one, that is the last pointer on the focus object, the exit focus is triggered. So that's basically the difference here, that the focus enter. So basically from an interface perspective, the focus handler will concentrate on per object, and only it is triggered when the last pointer leaves the object at the on focus exit and the first pointer enters the object on focus enter. And in the case of a focus changed handler, it will trigger on all the objects which has a script, and whenever the on focus is changed from one object to another object, it will be raised on both of them, right? If both of them are handling it, it will be raised on both of them. And if on before focus change will be raised on the event that is available again before, I mean on the one which is losing the focus and one which is gaining the focus, actually, because both of them are about to, its focus status is about to change. So that's basically the the whole idea about focus itself. Now let's implement the pointer events, which is basically the click and the tab, the basic act, the fundamental action operation for interacting using the interface called iMixedReality pointer handler. Now let me rearrange this one a bit. All right, and goes into the next line, and now we can implement the interface. Right. So I'm going to keep these for on focus change and focus changed as empty ones. So we don't want to uh, cloud our entire console with the logs. So here there are multiple ones: on pointer down, on pointer being dragged, on pointer up, on pointer clicked. So when it comes to a hand operation, it is basically you are doing a tap. That is what it is all about. So let me show you. So I'm going to remove this and show an empty one. So all right, now we entered the focus, and when we exited one, we simply exited it. Nothing is happening there. Now to tap on it, you can either press enter key if it is a gaze. Now basically this is the gaze pointer at this point, and if you want a hand pointer, we are going to take that. You can see my hand. If you notice the mouse or the hand, I'm going to click the left button of my mouse, and you can see that's considered a mouse down, a mouse up. A simultaneous operation of mouse down and up will be considered as a click, and this is basically what is considered as a drag: mouse down and move the mouse, right? So that's, now if you see it, entered focus. Now that should trigger three events: mouse down, up, and clicked, right? So let's go and take a look at it. I'm going to comment these guys also out so that we can concentrate on our pointer click. Now I'm going to use the same debugs here: on pointer down, on cube, right? Now we have debug.log on all four of them. And now please note, we won't be seeing the on pointer dragged event at this point. We'll be seeing the other three when we use that particular operation. We'll see the pointer dragged shortly. So we have pointer down, we have pointer dragged, and pointer up, and clicked. So for now, I'm going to keep this pointer dragged, so because we don't want to see it right now. The reason being, the pointer dragged will be triggered like a multiple times every time the pointer is there. So the moment you click, it is going to create like a lot of dragged events. So that's why I'm commenting it out right now. We'll see without them first. So okay, so right now I have it, and I'm going to point down. Now when I leave my mouse, it will trigger both the up and clicked events. See that? So that's basically those three events. So once again, 1, 2, and 3. Right. So that's basically considered as a tap, just like this. Let me clear it. Okay. Okay, so that's basically how that is being handled. Now let's go and see the dragged event, right? So if I remove that, what happens is you will see a tons of logs will be cleared. So I'm going to keep some space here. Hopefully I can fit it in there. Now here, look at the console. See that? The moment, so it was pointed down, and then they dragged. There are a lot of drags within that time, and then clicked and up by the time I left it, right? So if I keep doing it, it will be created further and further. You can see that there is a lot of them being created because I'm dragging my pointer here around, right? So that's why all these events are being created. You can see it, right, before clicked and up again. So those are the last events which is being raised on the object. Now that's very interesting that it's first raises the clicked event, because that's basically combining the the down and up, and then the final up is being raised. So that's the order of it. So it's basically down, drag, click, and up. So to summarize what we covered in short, pointer input events are recognized and handled by the Mixed Reality Toolkit input system in a similar way like the other input events like the speech, the articulate hand gestures, and controller-based input events. Right. The main difference is that the pointer event are handled only by the game object which is in focus by the particular pointer that fired that event, right? And any other global input handlers if they have registered. But the regular input events are handled by those game objects which are in focus for all the active pointers in the scene, right? That's the basic fundamental difference here. So if you notice, we didn't have to, map these events to any actions, because they are the most core basic events, like focusing on an object. So that's why there were no actions, related to it. But what you can do is you can actually, there are scripts provided by the toolkit for, let's say, pointer handler. Yeah, pointer click handler and pointer handler. If you want to add, what it does is, like, you can actually do what we just did. So we just did pointer enter, down, dragged, and all those things by implementing the interface directly. So what you can do is another option. If you don't want to implement the interface in your code, you can simply add this particular script, right? Yeah, pointer handler. That sorry. Let me remove this one. That's the old one. So I'm going to add pointer handler. Okay, so you can see that we have the same events on pointer down, pointer up, clicked and dragged events already implemented for us. So this particular script is basically that, nothing more. Right, so if I open the script, you can see it. And what you can do is you can add your own functions as for Unity events, right? So if I have a function in my script, let's say, uh, let me go and implement a simple void. Okay, I'm going to do a pointer click. I'm not going to take any event data or anything. I'm just going to add a simple log, and I'm going to remove all my implementations right now. So it's just a mono behavior I'm creating, and I'm removing every single thing. I just did that so I don't have to write it. See how lazy I am? All right. Okay, so this is basically on pointer click. What I'm going to do is, so I have this script attached to my cube, and now I have attached the pointer handler cube into my cube. And I'm going to do is on pointer click, I'm going to open this, right? And then object is basically my cube itself, right? And then going to select the Unity function from cube controller, and the sorry, I forgot to make it public. My bad. Okay, public. It's compiling. All right, cube controller, and now you can see pointer click. This is what it is. And next time I go and play, and I'm having my controller, you can see that only my click event is raised, right? So that's a handy way that if you don't want to implement all those interfaces, you just want to focus on your functionality, and you just want to have your own mono behavior, what you can do is, like, you can implement this pointer handler class, pointer handler script, attach it to the the game object, and then write your own function and everything, and then just take it. right? And also it provides you with one functionality like is focus required, which simply says, hey, does this object need to be focused, right? If it does not, no, I don't want it to be focused and still need to capture it, then uh, what it does is like it will be a global listener. So you can see that uh, so I have my hand and I'm going to simply click it, and it is still going to trigger that on pointer clicked because now it is registered as a global listener, which means, hey, it doesn't matter if I'm focused or not, just when a click happens, let me know. That's basically the global handlers. You can register it. I'll show it in the code in the upcoming lessons. But yeah, just want to show it to you right now. Just a quick example. Now, if the CubeOne, let's say the CubeOne has the focus handler required, what happens is like the next time I erase it, outside, nothing happens. But inside, yeah, I get the pointer clicked, right? Okay, so well, yeah, so marked events are basically nothing but it simply says that, okay, if there are more than one implementation of the handler or for the event within the same game object, then if the first one, whichever handles it first, is going to mark this as used, that means the other ones can actually safely ignore them, considering that, okay, that particular event is already handled. So if you have that kind of a behavior where you have more than one implementations in a game object, then but you don't want it to be handled, maybe you might have a case by case scenario. In that case, you can simply give it as marked as used, so that it won't be handled more than once, right? So that's basically the use of this particular boolean. Well, that's it. And we have covered the focus and pointer related events and how they work and everything in detail. And in the next video, we are going to see about nearby interaction using poke pointer and grab pointers, and also get started with the regular input event like speech. And then we will build on top of what we learned in this lesson in our future examples and future tutorials. So let me know if you've got any comments and questions or any other kind of feedback. Just I'll try to reply as soon as possible. And till then, bye. Thank you.